And welcome back, everyone, to Zanpakuto Creation Series. Today's series video comes to us from, who did give me this? Frank Archer? Well, asked the question, what is the Zanpakuto of Hibiki from Ninjago? Ninjago characters are always difficult to do, unless they're one of the more in-depth, or any LEGO character, really, unless they're one of the more more in-depth looked at characters with more defined personalities, who they are, all that. Hibiki is not one of those guys. He's described as cowardly arrogant, but smart enough to, not cowardly arrogant, but definitely cowardly, not overly bright, but smart enough to use magical weapons. There's not a lot I can go off of with that. And I'm not going to obviously watch an entire thing of Ninjago just to understand one minor character. I'm not going to be watching Ninjago to begin with. And again, if you like Ninjago, great. Not my cup of tea. Regardless, I'm still going to try to do his Zanpakuto. And luckily, when I heard cowardly, and clearly not like super genius or anything like that, I actually got an idea. So his Zanpakuto is pretty much just a straight melee-based type. It does have an ability, but it's a melee with like a minor ability that's not even a Keto ability. It's a standard katana. Its release is Crack. And its Shikai's name is Dull Mole. Its Bankai's name is Mole Fragmentation. Now, that translates, roughly speaking, into Nimbai Hokuru for the Shikai, and then Hokuru no Depenza, or something like that, for the Bankai. Its spirit would be of some kind of like a mole, but with more like shovels for hands than like claws. Now, the Bankai, surprisingly, I haven't done... Sorry, not Bankai. The Shikai. Yeah, so I used X-Gazrill Hill to kind of show what the spirit would kind of look like. The Shikai, seeing as I had the image here, is something I don't think I've really done. He's got a hammer. So it looks something like Tinkaton's hammer here. Probably a smaller equivalent of it, but not like a hammer that you work on like you work on hammering a nail with it for carpentry, but something bigger, like an actual, like a relatively large mallet type hammer. But it does have one ability. It's predominantly just a hit and melee weapon, but it gets bigger by the level of force that it hit with. What do I mean by that? Well, if you hit it, just like tap it, it's barely going to get larger in size. But if you strike all your might, it may very well double in size, or at least increase by a noticeable amount. And it can keep doing that indefinitely. The problem is, we've seen Zanpakuto where their size is unwieldy even for their wielders. Soifon's Bankai is a perfect example of this. It's a myth to think that just because you are the wielder of your Zanpakuto, that it doesn't mean that you can just wield it no matter what. No, you're still kind of subjective to like some other thing, because the Zanpakuto is, while it is you, it is also it's a separate entity with its own spiritual energy to a certain degree. But it is you. You know, the sword is you kind of thing. But you're still subject to the limitations that your body can handle. So eventually, this hammer will just get so big, you're not going to be able to wield it anymore. Unless, of course, you train properly to, wield larger size hammers. Or you're like a Kenpachi or a Komamura with so much physical strength that, in theory, you could wield a skyscraper-sized mallet. But then that leads to the Bankai. Now, the Bankai, I couldn't find a good image of what I'm describing the Bankai as here, but I found the closest image I could. So the Bankai is basically you smash the ground one more time, and the hammer shatters. And now you're all just left with the handle. However, the shattered pieces are now, you're capable of literally using them and throwing them at the opponent. They can basically be used kind of like a Zenbon Sakura Kageyoshi thing, except instead of Zenbon Sakura, I guess I should say. Except instead of these very small but sharp blades, you have these giant chunks of metal that can move at high speeds and just pelt, bludgeon, and kind of just, not pepper isn't the right word, but just put holes in someone. The idea I was thinking of here is Mjolnir in Thor Love and Thunder. I couldn't find a good image that showcased what this Mjolnir could do, because it was Mjolnir that basically reassembled itself and could basically throw its individual pieces and do a lot of pot shots. That was the idea I generally had for this, is that the bigger the hammer, the more pieces you get, or the larger the pieces you get. I imagine enough skilled training with this, you could maybe even just separate it into specific size pieces specifically that you're looking to throw at an opponent. Like maybe you got like a dozen smaller ones, then you got like crack the hammer in half or two giant pieces. There's a couple fun things you could do there. So that's my general idea for the Zanpakuto. Now, that being said, as we've kind of just established, there are problems here. The Shikai has no range ability. It's not even really all that dangerous in a combat sense. It's just a large hammer that gets bigger. And unfortunately, like I said, unless you are insanely strong, you are eventually not going to be able to lift this thing. Even if you say impart your Ryatsu into it to kind of like enhance your strength or, you know, force your Zanpakuto to submit or whatever, you're still only going to be able to move it vaguely. So while this thing could get large indefinitely, there's a limit to how big you want it to get, is the best way to put it. You do not want to have this thing be the size of a mountain. Even though if you somehow manage to release the Bankai, because that would be the thing. This isn't a Bankai where you can just yell Bankai and it cracks, so you still got to smash it one more time. Because we see this with Byakuya all the time, and I'm using Zunbon Sakura here because it's actually a good comparison. Every time he activates the Bankai, he has to drop the sword. There's never been a moment where he's never activated Bankai without doing that. That is not to say he can't do it, but we've never seen it, so we can't confirm if he can or not. Now, with that being said, the other downside of this Bankai or Zanpakuto is that there's really not much to it. There's no Kido effect, there's no Ryatsu effect. Yes, the hammer's dangerous, especially in Bankai. You know, it's a lot of pieces, but a strong enough, durable enough, fast enough, or hacks enough individual is not going to be affected by it. So is it a fun little Zanpakuto? Absolutely, I think it's a fun Zanpakuto. Is it a hack Zanpakuto? No, not even close. This is just my opinion, though. What do you think of this design for a Zanpakuto for this character? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.